Hey friends, it's Ariel. So, I'm getting in touch because it has been a long time since I made a video, like a couple of years, and I really want to get back into it and be able to share what's going on in my life as well as just talk more about like my epilepsy and how it's affecting me now, even though I haven't had a seizure in like 2.5 years. I'm really dealing with the trauma stuff, and so now treating it as PTSD versus just thinking I have epilepsy has been helpful. Um, so yeah, I've learned more about different stuff with PTSD. Like there's more research coming out about how you actually are you're taking different brain pathways in trauma versus regular memories. And so that's part of why trauma is like at the forefront of your mind versus memories for most people are, you know, in the past, and that your brain actually views it differently. I found that so helpful because I still can't figure out why, after all these years, I still have a lot of these feelings that are like, it's not happening now. I'm not having those seizures. Like, I don't need to be afraid of that anymore. Like, it's not dangerous anymore. But if you spend a ton of years feeling that way, thinking that way, and having it be the reality, it's hard to just like, oh, now it's not. That your brain doesn't do that. So I've had to be more and more gentle with myself, and also, like I said, researching more and finding out more is really helpful for me to like be able to get the right help. And I don't think enough people talk about epilepsy PTSD. Definitely not. I'd never heard of it till I decided that's what it was. I have many other things that happened, but a lot of them were related to my seizures. Whether or not they happened because of or just a seizure causing the trauma, a lot of it had to do with the unsafe situations I ended up in because of being so confused. Like, I could not think. Like, I basically would be trying to make decisions, and it's like I couldn't decide to go left or right. I would do things that I didn't understand why. Once I kind of like, after an hour or something after a seizure, it'd be like, what happened? Like, what did I do that for? Going somewhere or doing something that I just didn't understand. But I was really out of it when it was happening. So I also would usually try to go where there were no people because I didn't want people to see, because I could tell that my behavior was off. And I've talked about this in another video about how simple partial seizures can look like odd behavior, because it's true. But for me, I was trying to hide it because I didn't understand why I was doing the things I was doing. Because of like how seizures are basically your brain fried for a little bit. And that's what you're dealing with afterward. Yeah, that makes sense that you can't think. And so for me, that's like, that was the scariest thing though. Um, because even like, having them in public was really scary. That really, yeah, that was hard. I mean, I ended up in so many dangerous situations because of being confused. So like I said, it's not just the actual having the seizures, it's what happened with the seizures. Maybe if I'd been around people who were helping me deal with them whenever I had one, that would have been different. But I didn't even know they were seizures. So I was trying to function in a world where I couldn't function, and just ignore everything that was happening and try to pretend things were fine. And when you can't think, it's very hard to do that. And so it would be confusing because I'd try to be figuring out how to act normal when like I couldn't think. And so I was so confused about why I couldn't think. Like, literally, that was one of the biggest problems. So I guess you could say that I'm really thinking now that the trauma is the thing to deal with, and realizing that it's really important, and it is the next step with my epilepsy. I'm not having seizures now, but this is still affecting me so much, like all the time. I have realized that the trauma, that I'm dealing with, there are so many things that make more sense when I think about them in relation to my epilepsy, with my difficulty sleeping, or like hating to take baths or, even showers because it was dangerous. And being alone has been a really hard one in my life. And I've gotten to a totally different place with that, but it took a long time. And having my dog with me 24/7. And, that's okay. That's what I want you to know. Like, it's okay that that's the way it is. And definitely everybody who has PTSD should be hearing that, because that's what you need to hear. Because a lot of people blame themselves, which is actually like a PTSD symptom. And, like I said, we're talking about epilepsy here, though, and I'm encouraging people to realize that medical, diagnoses and situations, because there's also just medical trauma that can relate from, having gaslighting in other situations where people don't believe you, stuff like that, that can cause trauma, versus like this is a medical condition that caused the trauma. Both of those are medical trauma. But yeah, it's real and it's difficult, and it's helpful for me to know that, like, it's still real. I guess I kind of, like I said, I thought, well, I'm not having seizures anymore. This wouldn't affect me so much anymore. And I have to remember that, what is that? I've had epilepsy for 31 years. Like, yeah, that's a big, 2.5 years now of no seizures, but like, that was a long time to be dealing with it. And this is not long enough to like be over the things that happened. Definitely my seizures were a trigger for my PTSD too, because that was like one of the biggest traumas. So like when I had a seizure, it would be so hard to deal with later on too, because then it was compounded with all the trauma that happened from having them in the past. So then it just gets even worse. And yeah, all of it was just so hard. And it's good for me to realize that it's still hard and it's still a big deal. And I still need to like acknowledge it, validate it, and, be aware of it so I can get the right help and do what I need to do and take care of myself and be kind to myself, and really to slow down and be like compassionate with what I'm feeling, rather than be like, why do I feel this way? Or even, I know why I feel that way, like with my sleep, that I'm scared of going to sleep. And I'm like, I wish this would be done, like, why can't this stop? But like, honestly, okay, 30 years of like having seizures in your sleep, okay, yeah, your body's gonna be like, no, let's not go to sleep. And your brain's like, sleep is scary and dangerous. Like, yeah, it's been 2 years, but that is not long enough to not have my brain think that. And so expecting myself to just be fine has not been helpful. And to realize where it's coming from has been helpful. And like I said, to also be like, okay, yeah, and I can't expect that to just be over now. I can't expect that like I'm just over it after 2 years. No, I might know why it's happening, and it's still happening, and I'm not to blame, It's hard, it's okay. It was terrible, you know. Just being real about it. And yeah, so my PTSD is bad and it's hard and it just affects my life so much. And yeah, I just want other people to acknowledge that for themselves if it helps to realize that that's what you're going through. Talk to you guys later.